Hi, I'm Jenny Brown. I'm the food stylist at the recipe box delivery company Gousto. A food stylist is someone who cooks and plates food for recipe books, magazines, TV adverts, films, and sometimes even for billboards. They work on a team with a photographer, but they don't actually take the photographs. Today I'm going to share a few tips and tricks for getting the best photos of your food you can at home. Before I even start cooking, I like to pick out what props I'm going to use because that can inform how much of each dish I'm going to make. So, for example, if I'm going out to the shops and I know that I'm going to be making a huge baking dish full of something, I'll buy appropriately. If I'm using this little plate here as my main prop, I won't need to buy as much. You don't need to spend a lot of money on props. You can scour your kitchen cupboards to see if anything catches your eye, or pick up things cheaply at charity shops. It's worth building up a small collection of props you can use. Another thing to think about is what surface are you going to shoot on. Do you have a pretty tabletop you can use? This one here is actually just a painted piece of wood that I just move next to the window whenever I'm shooting. You could also use a large sheet of colour paper or card. You don't need a studio or lighting to get a great shot. As I said, I move my photography surface next to a window and use daylight. You'll get a better photograph using daylight as opposed to indoor lighting, as the food looks more natural and the colours more true to what you see. Think about what the light is like at different times of day. The light here right now is soft with no strong sunlight flooding in, so it looks like it could be any time of day or year. When you're starting out, it's easier to photograph in soft light, but as you get more confident, it can be fun to play around with glass shadows on brighter days. Another thing to play around with is if you get a piece of white card, you can use it as a reflector, which what that does is it bounces the light back across your set and can lighten shadows a bit. When you're setting up your shot, it's good to think about what is the story that you're telling. Is it a buffet table? Are you setting up a banquet? Is it just a simple setting for one person? For example, here I've set up a kitchen scene with people making scones ready to go out. The job of a food stylist is to make the food look as appetising as possible. Some good tips for this is to not overcrowd your plates so people can see exactly what they're being served. Another tip is when you're out buying your produce, try and pick the best that you can. It's worth spending an extra few seconds to get something that looks great because you won't be able to change it in post afterwards. I think food always looks best when you don't play around with it too much. This can waste time, and fresh food always looks best. I like to always add any dressings or garnishes on set. Basically, think about anything that's likely to move or melt. It's worth doing right at the last moment. And then all that's left to do is to take your photograph. So before you even start thinking about plating up your food, it's quite a good idea to get your set ready, so that means that once the food's on the plate you can take your photo really quickly, because you don't want the food to sit around too long and begin to look stale. So I've gone for a really simple green spring pasta dish, so I've gone for a nice pink plate because I think that will complement the green really nicely. So here I've got a few options of forks, napkins, got some plants over here. I know that it's going to have a garnish, so it's really nice to show your garnish on the side. So this is the fun bit where you just get to sort of play around and see what you think will look best. It's really nice to bring in different colours and textures at this point. I really love this blue linen. So I really love this plant here, but as you can see it's beginning to cause a shadow down here because the light is coming from across the surface. So I'm going to move that out of the way and maybe put it down somewhere where it won't block the light out. So once you've had a play around and you're happy with your setup, it's time to bring in the things that you're going to need to finish styling your dish. So here I've got my garnishes. I've got some kitchen rolls to clean up any spillages I make on the plate. And then a really good tip is if you keep your herbs or your salads in some ice water, it just perks them up and makes them just look a bit more fresh and more vibrant on the plate. And then you're ready to take your plate back to the kitchen and get styling. So once your food is ready and you've brought it to the set, this is your chance to clear up any straggly bits or any sort of spills, smudges. So if you look at this pasta, there's this bit here that's sticking out, so we'll just loop that back in. Clear up any sauce messes. And then it's time to garnish. Now, for example, like over here it's clumped up too much, so don't be afraid to go back in and move around anything that you don't like. You don't need to have herbs and nuts garnished, they always look pretty. Sometimes just a simple bit of black pepper just really brings extra life to a dish. And then just a few bits of parsley. You want to work relatively quickly because you want the food to stay fresh looking, but don't be afraid to go back in and change anything that you don't like. Then move anything that's going to get in the way of your light out of the way. And now it's time to take your photo. So if you bring in whatever you're using as a reflector, really see how much of a difference it makes. And then just have a play around and see what works. Don't be afraid to change angles, sort of get down lower, come up higher. And when you've got a shot that you're happy with, this is the fun part, you actually get to go and eat your food. I hope you found this helpful, and if you've got any questions you can find me on Instagram @BakedJenny. Thanks for watching.